That's right, game number 2 is here, and on the topic of Cooper and Kanata. Cooper is one of those players that once he finds his footing and he has a duo that can essentially give him the confidence, back him up on the calls, he is a player that stands and shines in those types of moments, especially when it comes out to engagements with other opponents. That's something that we've learned through the interviews with him throughout the last several months. But as we're jumping into game number 2 here, this is 2 of 5. There are very limited amount of opportunities right now to punch your way straight to the final. So if you're one of the few here at the fencing fields, you feel a little bit excited. We're happy at the fact that Ajerss is no longer here. Krizzix is no longer here. Our Hispanic brothers have moved on straight to the final. So now we get to see just Acorn and Cold have a little bit more room to work with, right?
Yeah, but where one team rotates out, another might choose to rotate in. So that's going to be something kind of stuck in the back of Acorn and Cold's minds. And they're not the only one. Muzz and Paper as well are also likely keeping that in mind, because nothing is guaranteed until you actually secure your victory royale in the upper bracket.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually shocked. A 4th team decided to replace Krizzix and Ajerss there at the drop, but clearly it did not go well. It just shows you what preparation can do for a person. Rapid and Batman Bugha found themselves in the end game. Batman Bugha dropped a little bit early in the later stages, but Rapid still managed to secure a top 10 as far as positioning is concerned. This is another, again, triple con location. Pump and N-Pen are one of the standout duos there. As we jump on over to the Grim Gate here, Peterbot and Boyo with the letdown performance from last game, but yeah, I'll just chalk it up to it. It is being what it is. Out of these 5 rounds, I mean, Peterbot and Boyo have shown that they have likely some of the best odds at picking up a victory royale here today. So I say don't sweat it, as there are that big win condition that can come in at any given time. But Taco, let's get into the action here. We have a fight.
It's at Pleasant Piazza of all places, but this is not a pleasant engagement right now for 7mil. Just trying to aggress into Eclipse's box. Eclipse gonna fall back just a little bit because this duo is definitely hurt. Poppy trying to create a little bit more space, and 7mil just obliterated the moment that he turns the corner. Too much off that peak, and now Poppy actually going to be able to clutch things up here for Eclipse. And now the focus can just be on re-establishing their loop path, knowing that they've got a little bit of their surge online, but definitely going to have to be careful, because you can see hovering in the distance, Baka and Pars, since they're dropping at that shipment station, it is very likely they'll have an opportunity to third party over at Pleasant Piazza.
Yeah, definitely. Blake and Macwood, though, here at the Glacier, already looking to push in for the fight here. Gonna take the wall right now. You can see a little bit of protection coming from behind. Something is telling Macwood that might have to be careful. Little does he know, it's a team floating in just on the outskirts here on the eastern side. So given a couple tags, they're gonna come back. Macwood looking for a refreshing angle, finds that golden bot's already out on the outside, looking for new angles, and it's not looking good right now for Macwood at all, who's seems to be a little bit frazzled in this situation here. Now things turn on Blake as well here. Taco into the box he goes, and Blake goes down and out boxed up and finished.
Blake nearly managed to turn that one around as well, but just a really nice split up from Ozone and Golden. You've got Ozone applying pressure to the floor that Blake was trying to find a little bit of a safety net from, and now Macwood kind of left a little bit alone for the moment, but it might only be a temporary relief, because now Percent, Bravo, they're choosing to filter in. Coming from that Summit base camp, Summit Temple, it's not too surprising to see them look to try and get some more surge online, given that they didn't go for that initial 2v2 against Curve and Tyler.
Yeah, Ozone and Golden Bot forced to low ground here. As much as they may want to finish that elimination, finding material right now is much more important, as they need to set up a defensive stance here. Percent and Duo are up above, looking down, and Macwood's just waiting in the stalls here, hoping that things simmer down. But the zone is on the way, so Bravo and Percent are going to rotate out. No need for them to stay around. Let's jump in with Peterbot and Boyo. Let's see how things are going to start to fare out for them this time around, as once again we know that finding a fight is essentially the hard part for this duo. Finishing the fight is where they do tend to shine most right now.
Typically, we've already seen Peterbot and Pollo have at least 1 or 2 eliminations online by this point, but you can definitely tell the differences in terms of the set lobby versus some of those open qualifier weak competition lobbies. But Clix, Epic, they're looking to have at least some repeat instances from game number 1. They definitely had success surrounding that weapon bunker in terms of the fact that Clix able to connect with a really nice sniper shot, but now without that sniper in tow, he's gonna have to figure out surge strategies elsewhere. And he might be able to find it onto M-Pen and Pump, but he's got to be wary. Doesn't want to exchange his own shield and white HP for it, given that he doesn't have a whole lot of shield to regenerate in the first place. Yeah, he's got the Flowberry Fizz for right now, but you need these resources to last throughout the duration of the actual weapon bunker fight.
Yeah, for sure, but one thing we noticed about Clix and Epic Well has been is their early game tags and being able to set themselves up for the surge is going to be important. We have replays as other action is happening here as well. Kanata and Cooper continuing the pace here, finding Can and hunting him down here at the Underworld. Now, this to me is one of the bigger surprises, as in lead up, we didn't see any teams moving towards the Underworld, where right now it seems like Kanata and Cooper are trying a much different strategy. That alone can catch potentially Pollo and Peterbot off guard right now, as it seems like whatever their strategy is here in game 2, it's not quite working just yet.
What's really crazy to me is seeing Pollo and Peterbot, of all people, being the ones to surge base up. So yeah, just kind of continuing that narrative, MDF. They have definitely not been having an easy go at getting that surge online. No guaranteed eliminations when it comes to the set lobby. Ritual and Reed, on the other hand, though, they might have a prime opportunity here up against the likes of Aviv and Chubbs. Chubbs already trying to get as much health back as possible off the chug splashes, but again, he's so split from Aviv currently, and with Ritual just bearing down onto Aviv's walls, the only thing Ritual really needs to keep in mind is how exposed he is from behind. He doesn't want to give any opportunities for a third party from a distance, especially with that waterbending mythic in the game, to try and smash his HP in the process while he's bearing down onto Chubbs and Aviv. But 2 really well-placed shots. Ooh. That's going to be another straight onto Aviv. 1v2 practically. Did have Reap for the backup just in case, but 2 beautiful eliminations, and they could not have come at a better time, because look at who it is in the horizon. Bolts, Bryce, and another team still over towards that horizon, just trying to apply pressure with Thunderbolt of Zeus.
That was so impressive. Ritual, not only did he land a monstrous shot with the pump, but he swapped to the DMR, and we already know that does 70 if you are point blank range. So, hey, trusty weapon to swap to nonetheless.
Finally seems as though things have calmed down a bit here. And another important topic of discussion we'll have to wait on was Rise Yamzo. Seems like they were able to clear up 1 engagement in their favor, having that single elimination in tow. Single Flowberry as well. Kind of just waiting to see where their next strategy is planning on taking them in terms of getting a little bit more damage online, because we did see a handful of some of our more experienced teams even struggling in that first lobby, MDF. They did not seem to have an easy time at establishing that healthy amount of surge damage that we've been so conditioned to seeing these pros maintain, but these DMR shots certainly going to help the case here for Rise.
Here's Cold set up using the bush here at the top of the base. This is going to be the more popular strategy you'll see in these types of upper or skilled tiered lobbies. It's the safest way for you to get a free line of sight on your entire perimeter. Wouldn't it be wise for anyone to try to fire back and give up your position, and just like that, if you're looking out for a little too long, you're gonna get spotted out. So Cold with the excellent tags here. And who better than Cold to be up there, as he is
Okay,
the marksman of the duo, for sure.
Paco and Mixon.
What do you think about this?
You know what? EU versus NA has just been rampant all over socials, right? Especially because of the whole Peterbot Pollo debacle. But seeing Paco and Mixon this far out at sea, it is a dead side rotation for the ages. It does seem, though, as though they have been spotted out by another duo that's actually still landside, but Mixon and Paco, you have to imagine that they're banking that the 2 eliminations they currently have are going to be enough to provide them with the damage that they need, but it's clearly not, because shots from distance continue to rain in, so players definitely looking to try and collect as much damage as possible on these two. And Mixon and Paco, they wanted the dead side rotate, but now their issue is, can they even make it back to shore?
But hold up, let's jump in with Peterbot and Pollo right now, who are in and on the shore right now in a battle with Convict, Vanillas, and Reciprocal's duo there on the low ground. And you see, most teams would stop fighting when you have another duo on top of you, but Peterbot and Pollo have already shown us that this is all but an exercise for them. Let's see if Peterbot and Pollo can climb out of the rut, essentially. They're sandwiched between all of these different duos here. An unprecedented 0 eliminations right now for the duo here. Could it just be pressure's on and they need to find their footing?
Well, with the zone starting to close, Peterbot didn't want to waste any more time, recognizing the fact that they're going to have to traverse through some very familiar territory here at Grim Gate. They will have a moment to get some shield regen online, and Peterbot still with 2 shield potions, just going to opt to expend 2 of them. But they just want to get ahead of the rest of the traffic that was following them, MDF. Their intent is definitely trying to play as aggressively as possible, or as they can manage, but these teams are just not folding. It is not the Peterbot and Pollo that we were witnessing through the open quals, but that's to be expected, because again, we are looking at some of NA's finest competing in upper bracket day 1.
Or what we're looking at right now is just a different level of seriousness coming out of the competitors, right? As you know, in different stages of the game, you might take a little bit more risk where you wouldn't as you start getting closer and closer to semis and finals. Because there are clear decisions that you can make as a player that will mitigate your risk and play a little bit more defensively, maybe even more passively when it comes down to engagement. So I think we're just seeing the better side of the overall competition here on the NA region, and that alone is, you know, honestly pretty exciting.
Well, that, and I think a lot of players can also recognize when a team is desperate for surge. Rise and Iamzo could possibly be in that position, but Rise, he's just hoping to scrape away altogether. Iamzo gonna be able to provide some necessary backup, and that's gonna be a quick elimination onto Zeus. So for the time being, Rise, a chance to breathe and a much needed refresh on some resources. That's gonna make it all the easier for Iamzo to maintain his. Was almost very problematic though. If Rise had actually managed to get knocked there, and Iamzo had been left as a potential solo, it's very annoying trying to go for a reboot in the mid game.
Iamzo and Rise looking for the redemption season here. Jumping with Muzz and Paper, still in the home territory of the fencing fields here. Little did Bugha and company know, as they've rotated on out. And then you still have Ozone as well, just lurking here in the basement. I do wonder if they're aware of one another's presences here. Yeah, it does seem like Ozone is a solo, so someone took his duo out. It's very clear that they're sticking around here, not making it any more easy for him to get his pickup.
You have to remember Golden and Ozone having been involved with that initial skirmish over at Grand Glacier up against Blake and Macwood. And that was right before Bravo and Percent had managed to rotate a little bit further north to the Grand Glacier POI. So Ozone left to fend for himself, but He's being smart about it. Stealth is definitely your best friend when you are left in that solo position. But the only placement that I think a lot of players have on their minds currently is that first place position. They want the Victory Royale. Granted, maintaining 6th through 25th, sure, it's nice, but it's so much nicer to just be guaranteed grand finals.
Everyone wants it. Everyone's fighting for it. Let's take a look at Acorn and Cold right now. I like this. I like that they've long left their draw spot, and they've been playing for more and more key positioning here. Still at max material. Already have a set of eliminations based off of course, the first 2 they picked up. So the points are looking good. They have a lot of time to make up for, as they were eliminated so early last game. If nothing else this day, you still want to finish up towards the top of the standings, of course, because you want to remain within the upper bracket here. See it? Peterbot and Boyo back into the mix here. So looking to put up some numbers. 30 damage below. This is a first for Peterbot and Boyo. And usually in this type of situation, I mean, you see it, this is a team that can handle the 1v2s, handle the bad hands that are being dealt in. Just like that, Peterbot proves that he can do it by himself while Boyo was applying pressure from the angle there. Very, very well played, and finally they put some numbers on the board now.
And they needed that, because just look at the damage threshold, barely above, and that's off the back of 2 clean eliminations there by Peterbot. So now the focus gonna return back towards just rotating inwards, but seems as though Peterbot has caught wind. Some other players kind of hovering around the baseline of Rift Island. All these pre-existing builds too could make for a very tricky rotate there for Peterbot and Poyo. But you have to admit, the thermal scope, its stocks are certainly up right now. As far as today's lobby is concerned, I mean, that big bush bomb being reintroduced has definitely shaken things up here.
Yeah, it definitely shifts things around. Zooks is gonna find Poyo there in a full finish in the feed. I wonder if that is up to date, as that would be a huge change of events here. Meanwhile, Cold and Acorn are going to do just enough to fend off the team that was on top of them. But so they're going to have to, of course, continue to rotate here throughout this mess of a zone. And here you get to see from Zook's perspective, Zooks and Shadows were playing the zone here. Boyo and Peterbot had no idea that they were nearby. And
wow,
it's the water mythic that melts Boyo before he can even react. And then Peterbot gets slammed by Playify right afterwards. They just aren't catching a break just yet.
It's part of the problem. The longer your fights take, the further outside of zone you are, the less opportunity you're gonna have on these rotations and maintaining your own life in the process. This Ritual Re, if they're not careful, they might find themselves getting picked off as well. But one thing that they do have to their advantage is a nice threshold of surge damage so far. So that's going to keep them just completely focused on moving forward, trying to get to edge of zone as quickly as possible. But just look at what lies in front of them. Acorn, Cold, a plethora of so many other duos just already trying to landlock this edge of zone.
Huge tag here off the Sprite and a finish for Ritual. He was quick and clean with it, but Shore boxes up his teammate there. Not enough to get the save though, as the angles were good from Ree, and that's the benefit of course, having that Flowberry Fizz effect in motion. But Feline and Backtalk from the zone into the box here. You can just hear the surge going down right now. It's not a problem for Ritual and Reed, of course, who are so far above, but other teams facing the wrath.
I'm also just hearing the waterbending mythic. Someone is definitely trying to utilize it to break down builds. Even though it's not as ideal, it does have infinite ammo. Right now, what Feline needs, though, is for Acorn and Cold to back off. And they will fall back momentarily, but this doesn't look like an exchange that Cold and Acorn are willingly ready to give up. It seems as though they really want to just hold down their current position. And so the intention may have just been to threaten Feline, make him recognize the fact, hey, there's another duo hanging out in this mid layer. Better just pull back entirely.
Yeah, and there's no reason to risk it. But what a tag from Backtalk to keep himself in the game. 25 HP. And that could have been everything that he needed right there. But hey, it's an elimination, and it does seem like things are settling in. He will have to find just another one if he wants to, of course, lose the pressure here. But it's on now more than ever. I don't know, if I'm him, I'm thinking I just hide. I'll be honest, I'll play for placement points at this time. You just can't afford to get tagged at all.
As soon as Surge comes into play, if it comes into play, he only has 25 HP to work with. One tick and he's done.
Oh, so it's actually Reed. Is it Reed with the mythic water bending? So that's what I heard over the shoulder. I thought someone was firing at them, but no, it's Reed letting it loose here.
He's not the only one, by the sounds of it. But it was really only a matter of time before pros started taking more notice of this waterbending mythic. The fact that it doesn't have that fall off in terms of its accuracy is just too problematic. Cooper, though, another player that is definitely very accurate, and that's a nice refresh for him, Kanata. A good pathway clear up as well for them to try and tarp through some of these low ground. Just so many pre-existing builds as is, though. And Bugha, second lobby in a row now, we've seen him rocking these wings of Icarus. It does seem as though Bugha is definitely a big fan of making the rotates, with that item having also been brought back.
Yeah, he's got the wings of Icarus, and he also hasn't picked up a regular AR this entire time, nor an SMG. He's running the DMR all the way into the late game. So very interesting strategy, but it also shows you that top tier competitors will just have different strategies, like in general, and they'll build their loadouts around those different types of playstyles. For Clix and Epic Whale, you can see the SMG is going to be a big factor in their high ground pressure right now. But let's take a look at this. This is a favorite right here to do some good work this weekend. Iamzo and Rise, 3 eliminations now. Dead side rotate. First to the punch here as they're moving around the outskirts. And it couldn't be looking better right now for this team who has just a little bit of mats, but it's Paco and Mixon who's above them, still alive as well. So it seems like the water rotates played out well for them.
Keep in mind, too, that Rise and Iamzo, they're split between Pantheon Path and Lil Villa. There is a radio tower nearby, so if they have forecast online, which I'm almost inclined to believe based on how much they're actually moving ahead of everybody else and doing a great job at maintaining their positioning, could be a very big advantage for them. As this lobby continues to unfold, Muzz Paper caught up for a moment, but will find an opportunity to get some shields slightly regent here. Down to Muzz's last little bit of Flowberry Fizz, though. Team underneath, it's going to be Reed and Ritual getting absolutely shredded here. Big refresh, though, for Muzz and Paper.
How unfortunate for Reed and Ritual right there, who was so set up for success, but opting to rotate late was the biggest mistake they could have made right there. And meanwhile, on high ground, it's Clix and Epic Whale. No strangers to, of course, taking victory royales in this endgame, but Kanata and Cooper are giving them a run for their money. They just haven't stopped contesting them for height, and you can see it has really started to backfire here onto the inventory of Clix, who's down to 80 builds. Cooper down to 160, so it's starting to wear and tear on everyone, but the heals are looking tight right now for Kanata and Cooper, as they are still very much in a healthy and wealthy situation up top. Back to the Mixon, though. No mats here. Taco, they will have to get involved into another fight if they want to see the rest of the lobby here play out.
They've definitely got the capabilities. What they need, though, is the closure. And Rise and Iamzo are not the team you want to tangle with in this kind of position. Clix Epic, though, certainly feeling the tide's turning against them here. Down to their last little bit of HP. Clicks will find elimination onto Paco. That makes it 3, but no mats left to function with. That's going to be all Rise and Yamzo on the come up here now, working their way, tarping through this low ground, but the pressure steadily being applied just from directly behind. Hello, it's threats out of nowhere.
And Yamzo here as a solo on the low ground as well. It's looking like it's a lot of solos here in the mix, but one of the few duos still alive. Cooper, Kanata, as I spoke a little too soon, Kanata falls, and it looks like from high ground to the low ground, and now a man down. Cooper has to play this one out by himself. Ajerss and Bugha, the duo lurking in the mist here. The DMR holder himself, the team that shouldn't have had the pressure of the high ground position, end up doing what they need to do to win the game there, Taco.
Can only imagine the way that Bugha and Ajerss are cheesing right now, knowing that they have just secured their slot in the grand finals after only the second match of today's 5 games, MDF. And they did it in a pretty dominating fashion as well, because high ground, Vivian mentioned it, when Peterbon and Boyo are not in the lobby, on average, it was swapping around 5 times, and we saw a plethora of high ground switch-ups happen throughout the duration of this game, but ultimately, it was Bugha and Ajerss that were able to last-minute maintain it and just suppress everybody else.
Yeah, and Bugha is definitely not really equipped to take high ground with the loadout that he's playing. That DMR is not great for close quarter engagements, but hey, it works out here in game number 2. It's all about timing and execution as Ajerss and Bugha win that one and go straight to the finals. So what a win for Bugha and Ajerss. I mean, they're, if anything, one of the guarantees we could have expected to get to finals. So with that, Zeke, catch us up on your thoughts on that.